Hello, I'm not Chuck, and today I'm going to disprove Little House on the Road's favorite bogus claim about RVers. I've heard it over and over, and you probably have as well. It's repeated again in the video put up just yesterday, but here it is from the one of December 8th, 2019.
The federal government states that if you do not have a permanent address that you can rest your head, they consider you homeless.
Every time I hear this, I wonder where such a ridiculous idea could have come from. Recently, I ran across a Little House video that I hadn't seen before, and it provided the answer. The video is from his trip to Arizona last summer and is dated August 27th, 2019. Watch and listen.
The government actually defines homelessness. The U.S. government is when a person lacks a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence. So that's part one of the definition. And it says, and if they sleep in a shelter designated for temporary living or in a place not designated for human habitat. Okay, so that means I got to have a place to sleep that's fixed. It means I got to have a place to sleep that has an address.
Maybe that's not the first time he put out that idea, but it's the only time I have ever seen the graphic with it. Let's take another look at that graphic. So the reference was from the U.S. Interagency Council on Homelessness and is reporting on HUD's definition of a homeless person. That is all I needed to start fact-checking. I'm going to show you a lot of information that I have found, and I will put links to the sources in the video description below. I want you to be able to read it for yourself. Here's the top part of a document from the Congressional Research Service. The CRS is part of the Library of Congress and provides members of the House and Senate with policy and legal analysis. I consider it a very reliable source. The first line of the second paragraph says, and I quote, "There is no single federal definition of homelessness." End of quote. It goes on to report that several federal departments use the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act definition. HUD, that's the Department of Housing and Urban Development, is listed as being one such department. The paragraph ends with the observation that some other federal departments use different definitions. This is a copy of the front page from the 57-page Act of July 22, 1987. Fortunately, what we're looking for is here, toward the bottom of the screen. Section 103, General Definition of Homeless Individual. Section 103A1 defines a homeless individual as an individual who lacks a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence. And 2, an individual who has a primary nighttime residence, that is, and I'm skipping to subparagraph C, a public or private place not designed for or ordinarily used as a regular sleeping accommodation for human beings. That certainly sounds similar to what Rob posted, except there was no mention of a place to lay one's head or a need for a physical address. Did you notice that little note in the upper right-hand corner that says 42 USC 11302? That refers to the United States Code, Title 42, Paragraph 11302. Let's look at that. This is a screenshot from the actual federal government website that hosts all federal laws. And this page is exactly the law that defines a homeless person according to the McKinney-Vento Act. Notice at the top left the note that says, text contains those laws in effect on December 10th, 2019. That's the date that I took the screenshot, so you know my information is current. Now read the general definition of homeless individual beginning just below the center section of the screen. Notice that there is quite a lot to it that was not contained in the McKinney-Vento Act. That's because the McKinney-Vento Act has been amended by Congress 4 times. 1988, 1990, 1992, and 1994. And each time the Act has been amended, the corresponding law, Title 42, had to be changed to correspond. Thus, over time, the definition of homeless has been expanded. In my opinion, the chances are good that it will be changed again soon to accommodate changes in the lifestyles of U.S. citizens. In order to try to keep a record of how many homeless people there are in the U.S., HUD requires an annual count of the homeless to be taken in January. This is called a point-in-time count because it is done over a very short period of time to increase its accuracy. The project is described briefly on the screen. You can pause the video if you want to read the entire screen. HUD provides very detailed instructions on how they want the count taken, and they answer questions about the procedure that they want to be followed. This screen addresses a very important issue for both the point-in-time count, that's abbreviated PIT, and for debunking Rob's assertion that everyone without a physical address is classified as homeless by the federal government. Here's the answer. The third paragraph reads, and I quote, "Because RVs are ordinarily used as regular sleeping accommodation, HUD does not believe that all persons sleeping in RVs should be included in the PIT count." That couldn't be any clearer, could it? The instructions go on to say that the persons making the count should take special steps to determine if the occupants of RVs should be counted as homeless or not. But nothing is mentioned about asking for permanent addresses, and it certainly would be if that really was a criterion for determining homelessness. Here's a portion of a training program for PIT counters. Listen closely, especially toward the end.
Here are a few examples of the vehicles that we want to engage. The vehicles on the left have visible markers of someone living in them, such as having many possessions within the vehicle and objects that have obstructing the windows for privacy. Vehicles that are visibly empty, slightly older models, or RVs in residential neighborhoods that are in someone's driveway should not be counted unless engaged. If an RV is in someone's property, please do not engage the vehicle. When speaking to someone living in an RV, you will need to ask a few questions to clarify if they are homeless and in need of services.
The counters are told they need to ask questions to determine if RV occupants are in need of services because they're homeless, and again, there is no mention of a physical address. So Rob's linchpin argument that RVers are considered homeless if they lack permanent physical addresses has been completely debunked. There is no conspiracy to add to the homeless count by including people who do not belong there. Rob will have to come up with some other excuse to warn his viewers that the sky is falling. Thanks for watching. Just remember, the government is not declaring full-time RVers as homeless because they don't have a physical address. And neither is law enforcement going to confiscate your RV because you don't have one. Obey the laws wherever you go, and don't worry about clickbait theories. P.S. I'm not Chuck.